to you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night. I'm happy to see everyone who put aside the time to spend with us tonight. We thought this is a very relevant topic, coping mechanisms, mental issues. In my day-to-day practice and speaking to my colleagues, we have seen an increase in anxiety, depression in our patients, and just having conversations with our family and friends. And so Ms. Norten, she so graciously and willingly accepted our invitation. And she is an expert in counseling. She's a trained social worker also, and has written books published, You Can Do It, and Becoming a Fulfilled Woman. So she has given these talks on a wide scale, especially with this pandemic. Many persons are struggling, and it's so widespread. All of us in some way have felt the effects. And so I want us to pay very close attention, focus on what she's saying, and try to apply it to our lives. And when we go to work tomorrow, we share it with someone who knows the effect it might actually have. Miss Norten, she's a woman of faith, and she explained to me that her desire is to help everyone she comes in contact with live more fulfilling lives. So I'm sure she has a lot to share with us tonight, and I'll turn right over to her. Another thing, if you didn't grab your paper and pen, please do so very quickly. You don't want to miss anything that she has to share with us. Ms. Norten, welcome.
Okay, good evening. Good evening to everyone. To Dr. I'm used to saying Dr. Mead, so I have to learn.
That is fine. Most persons call me Dr. Mead.
Yeah. Yes. And to your pastor, members, visitors, everyone that's joining us tonight. I feel so honored that you've asked me to come. We have quite a number of counselors and social workers in Antigua, so I'm always happy and blessed when I can spend time with God's people. There's a song that says, I love the thrill that I feel when I get together with God's wonderful people. And although we're speaking about a topic that's serious, we're not going to be up in here sulking and whining. We're still going to give thanks and praise, because guess what? We're alive. We made it. We're almost at the end of June. So we made it for the first 6 months of the year when many others didn't. So while we're speaking about a topic that's serious, tonight we're going to give God the praise. We're going to give him the thanks. We're going to give him the glory. And we're going to endeavor that when we sign off tonight, we're not going to live our lives the way we did before. That's the purpose of us getting knowledge and information, for it to make a difference in our lives. And there's something else. Although I've studied mental health and I'm a counselor and all that, I am very well aware that each and every one of you in here probably have a lot of coping tips to share. So I don't have a handout per se, because I just like talking and interacting with people. But we're going to use the chat for those of us who have it, right? And for those of us who are not brave enough to use the chat, then we have our pieces of paper. I want to start off with two scriptures. 3 John 3:2. In the New International Version, it says, Dear friend, I pray that you may enjoy good health and that all may go well with you, even as your soul is going along well. Dear friend, I pray that you may enjoy good health and that all may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well. That was what John wrote. And then in 1 Peter 5:7, that's one that's extremely familiar to you. It says, casting all your cares upon him because he cares for you. How many of our cares did it say we're to cast on God? Should we cast 1, 2, 3? Should we cast the cares that are related to work? Or should we just cast our cares related to home? No. If we remember nothing else tonight, let us remember that scripture, casting all your cares upon him because he cares for you. He cares for you. So let's not forget that. So tonight we're going to be talking about mental health, and we're going to look at the context of COVID-19. I mean, the fact that we're even meeting on Zoom alone says something, but you know, Zoom has its benefits, because if we were meeting in church, then everybody wouldn't come out, because some of us don't like to drive in the night and all these sorts of things. So the fact that we're meeting on Zoom still has its benefits. And that's the kind of people we're going to be. We're going to look at the positive in everything. And the positive is we get to come together. We don't have to leave the comfort of our homes. And we get to talk about topics that really make a difference in our lives. So what exactly is mental health? A lot of people don't like to talk about mental health, because when they talk about mental health, they think about mental illness. And in Antigua, we know, Antigua and Barbuda, we know there's a lot of stigma and discrimination when we talk about mental health and mental illness. They're two different things. They're two different things. Mental illness could be the schizophrenia and those things when somebody actually has a diagnosis, and it could be based on the chemical makeup of their brain, or they could have inherited something from their family or something like that. When we speak about mental health, we're speaking about a state of being. A state of being. It has to do with your emotions. It has to do with your psychological state. It has to do even with your social well-being. How well do you interact with those around you? When you go to work and you work with some provoking people that try to make your life miserable, do you allow it to get to you to the point where all your hair is dropping out? Or do you just know when to set boundaries and when to ignore? So your mental health has to do with your social well-being, how you interact with others. How are you able to deal with it when the driver in front of you slows down to speak with somebody on the road? Do you just lose your cool and start having road rage? Or do you just put on your music and count to 10? So it has to do with the social aspect, and it has to do with the emotional aspect. How do you express your emotions? And your emotions have to do with your laughing, your crying, your feelings of grief, and all that. Your mental health impacts how you think. Have you ever noticed that sometimes we're in a situation and we're discussing it with a couple of persons, and 4 or 5 persons in the same situation, but their perception of it is so different? It has a lot to do with how you think. Have you ever noticed that there's some persons, and this may have happened to you too, I know it's happened to me. You know, you walk into a room and you see a group of persons there and they start laughing. And you kind of wonder, I wonder if it's me they're talking about. Your mental health impacts your perception of other people. It impacts how you think. It impacts how you feel. It impacts your behavior. Why do some people, when they're under extreme stress, they can just sing a song or laugh it off or write in a journal, while others take off their clothes and go running down the road naked? What is it that causes us to react a certain way to extreme stress and trauma? And why do some persons seem to cope better, while some persons seem to fall apart at the slightest provocation? This has to do with the state of their mental health. So we're going to look at mental health tonight. The choices we make also depend on our mental health, and the quality of our lives is dependent on our mental health. And it all impacts also our relationship with God, because if we serve a God who says, look here, I've died for you. If you were the only person in this world, I would have come and died for you. How does that make you feel? If you're in a relationship and your partner is saying to you, oh, you're too fat, or, you know, I'll never marry you. And then you're a teenager, we have some youth in here, and your parents say to you, you're good for nothing. That hurts you to the bone. But guess what? You have a God that says to you, you are the apple of my eye. And if I can take care of the lilies on the field, and if I can take care of the sheep and the cows in the pasture, how much more, my child, my son, my daughter, will I take care of you who are created in my image. God didn't just speak the words for us to come into being. He went down and he created us. He crafted us. He created us with his hands and he breathed the breath of life into us. Brethren, you are special. Say it to yourself right now, I am special. I know the people in your house who want to know what's going on with you if you're talking to yourself, but you don't bother with them. We know what we're doing here tonight. So you're not worried about nobody else tonight. We up in here having fun. We're not studying anybody. Say that to yourself. I am special. I was created in God's image. And if he can take care of the lilies on the field, and if he can take care of the sparrows, he will take care of me. And once you say that every day of your life, storms are going to come, hurricanes are going to come, trials and tribulations are going to come, but you're going to feel a sense of assurance that nothing you face will break you. Yes, you'll bend a little bit, you know, sometimes we bend, sometimes we cry, sometimes we hurt, but we're not going to break. We are not going to break. So the first activity I want for all of you to do, I hope you all have your pen and paper. I want you to write 3 things that cause you stress. 3 things that cause you stress, anxiety, things that steal your joy. It could be things, it could be people, it could be places. So have your pen and paper and write 3 things that cause you stress, anxiety, worry, things that steal your joy and steal your peace. For those of you who are bold enough, you can write some of them in the chat. I would love to know some of them. But we want you to identify individually, every single person, what are 3 things that have the potential to disrupt your peace or that are causing you stress right now. It's really important that you do this because we don't want to leave here having those same things bother us. So let's identify 3 things, and at the end of the evening, we're going to find solutions on how to deal with them. We're not just coming in here to sit and talk. We're going to be people of action. So do we have people of action, Pastor? Your members, people of action? Okay, good. I'm happy to hear that. So write 3 things on your paper that cause you stress, cause you anxiety, that steal your joy, because we're going to work on those things tonight and we're going to attack them in the name of the Lord. We're not leaving here with the same stresses that we came in. We're people of victory, and we're not going to let those things hamper us for the rest of our lives. You know, one of the things about Christians, yes, we feel the same things everybody feels. But I heard a story some time ago from my grandmother, how a little boy was walking with his mom, and they're going to church, you know, walking. And then the little boy said to his mother, "Mom, look a Christian over there." And the mother looked and she not seeing anybody. And the little boy said, "Mom, look a Christian over there." And when the mom looked, she saw a donkey. And she said, "But why are you going to call that donkey Christian?" And the little boy said, "But look at how the donkey bears long, long, long." Now, what kind of message is that? Some of us are Christians, and our faith longer than the rest of the people in the world. We act like people that have no hope. So when everybody panicking and getting frightened and complaining, we just joining in with them. Which one of us tonight are going to be the ones that when we sit at work or home or on the bus going home, are going to be the ones that when people are complaining and griping and whining, we're going to say, "You know what? Yes, things are rough. We mightn't have a lot of money, but I'm alive. Every day above the ground is a good day." So we have to look at our perspective. We have to look at our perspective and the quality of our thoughts. So you've made a list of those 3 things that stress you out, and I hope some of you are going to be brave enough to share them with me. Who are some of the persons that are at risk of having mental health issues? Some of us are more vulnerable than others. We know that. Who are some of the people that are at risk? Let us examine our own selves and think of people we know. Because the information that we talk about tonight is not just for us, but we have to think about the persons in our lives and how we can help them. Persons who have a history of mental health problems. For example, you might know somebody who suffers with depression. And I know back in the day, we didn't call it depression. We used to say that person is getting nervous breakdown. Remember we used to say that? she had a nervous breakdown. Interestingly, we don't see a lot of men having nervous breakdown, but men do suffer with depression also. And we can't get into too much of gender issues tonight, but a lot of the times you see men have these mental issues. A lot of the time is relationship and financial. You know, in Trinidad they call it tabanca, in Antigua they say knuckle. Men can't handle that. They can't handle that. A woman, she will talk to her girlfriends and, you know, complain a little bit and maybe, you know, WhatsApp somebody and so on. But men, oh boy, men can't handle that at all. So when you see men get depressed too, you know, but it's a different type of thing that gets to them. When their job is threatened and their finances are threatened and their ability to take care of their family is threatened, you know, they have issues. Women, the list seems to be a little longer. You know, we're delicate and sensitive, although we're strong. But we seem to take on things a little more. And another difference between men and women is that men have a way of compartmentalizing things, you know. Something happened at work, they can leave that at work and come home. Not a woman. Something happened at work and she come home and her husband has to listen for 2 hours while she talk about it. And in his mind is like, oh, what's the big deal? You leave work. Like, why are you still talking about this? And then she get vexed with him because the point is she expects him to listen. Love is supposed to listen. So he want to give a quick solution. Well, if Koren always bothering you, then just stop talking to Koren, no? Like, why are you complaining about Koren? Just stop talking to Koren. And he think he did a good thing by providing a solution, but he's making things worse. So men sometimes just listen. You don't have to have a solution for the thing, but just listen, Jack. If you want to keep your marriage intact, listen. Anyways, not the marriage seminar. Sorry to go off track. I don't even know how much time I have, but I'm supposed. Anyway, let's stay focused. So persons at risk for mental health, persons who have a history of mental health issues like depression, persons who have poor coping skills. Some of us are a little more fragile than others. We weren't all created the same. So if you know somebody have poor coping skills, they fly off the handle really easily. They get stressed out really easily. Keep an eye on them. Persons with chronic medical conditions. Now, persons who have diabetes and hypertension are persons who you have to watch them for these issues because stress can impact diabetes, heart conditions, and also hypertension. So these are persons who are vulnerable, persons with chronic medical conditions, persons who are in high-risk jobs. You see, like when this pandemic was going on, people who were nurses and doctors, when they get home, they have to take off all their clothes on the gallery. And you remember, we didn't know much about this situation. So you have your 2- and 3-year-old children and you coming home and you can't hug them. Persons in healthcare jobs are very high risk. EMS workers, they have to be on the scene of all these tragedies. Police officers, fire persons. Some of us are in jobs that are very stressful and high risk, and we need to watch our stress level. If you have a spouse who's in one of these jobs, you need to ensure that the home is a peaceful place. You can't have a partner who's out in a high stress job and come home and then you're just rendering the person disagreeable. That is not nice. Create a peaceful, calm environment in your home. Persons who've had a recent loss. Now we have members in our congregation, in our community, who've lost loved ones. And you know, when somebody has a death in the family, in the first 2 or 3 weeks, they get so many calls, so many cards, so many messages of condolences. But you know, like a month after that person has had that loss is when the loneliness sets in. And at that point is when most people tend to forget. So at the beginning, you have everybody being all attentive, and that's lovely. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming, but it's good. But then what about 6 weeks after? What about 8 weeks after? When reality starts to set in that I have to spend the rest of my life without this person. Brethren, this is the time we need to look out for these persons. They are vulnerable, and especially elderly. When you spent 30 years and 40 years married to somebody and they pass away, you feel as if a part of you is gone. And sometimes those elderly people have a lot of depression, you know. They're often isolated, they're often neglected, they've given their hearts and their soul and their best to society. And now who's looking about them? Sometimes they feel useless. We need to look out for our elderly. They're very vulnerable and at risk of mental health issues. Sometimes they come to the hospital and they're not taking their medication. Nobody's home encouraging them. They don't have any will to fight or to live. So those are very vulnerable persons. Persons who are unemployed, persons who are underemployed. Some of us are in jobs, but the money not really up and up, you know. So people might see us going to work every day, but you're making $300 a week and your rent is such and such. So we have persons who are underemployed and some who are unemployed. We need those persons are at risk. We have persons who are in abusive relationships and persons who are working in jobs that there are no proper protocols. I get a lot of letters from people who work in workplaces. There's no proper environment. They don't have proper chairs to fit on. They feel like slaves. They only stay there because they need the money and they're stressed out. Their hair dropping out. Because every morning they wake up and they know they have to go to that place of work. It's like their whole body tense. And some of these people, they go to the doctor with belly pain, stomach pain, headaches. And the doctors run test after test and they can't find anything medically wrong. That is chronic stress. And since we're on that, let me tell you some of the ways that chronic stress can affect you. Because we're on the topic of mental health and chronic stress causes mental health. I'm going to run through this really quickly. From head to toe, our entire body is impacted when we're dealing with mental health issues. From the head, sometimes your hair starts dropping off. I just wear the wig because it's pretty, but sometimes when I used to be stressed, my hair used to fall out. And I know a lot of us have patches because of stress. Some of us have headaches. We have chronic headaches because we're stressed out. Some of us with head also, we have dizziness. Some of us are irritable all the time. We're angry. You know, they use the word, it touch us. Somebody just have to jam you a little bit in the supermarket and you're ready to blow up. Because you're so stressed, you're constantly on edge. Some people have panic attacks, anxiety attacks. We have some people, they sit and grind their jaw. Their jaw always grinding. They're grinding their teeth and there's tension. We have increased heart rate, the risk of stroke, heart disease, hypertension, diabetes. Some people, they carry their stress in their stomach. Anybody in here? Anybody that's listening to us carry their stress in their stomach? You feel like you have butterflies in your stomach. You have an upset stomach. Some of us get ulcers. We have digestive issues. We always nauseous. We have irritable bowel syndrome. Some of us, we gain weight. We're not going to even talk about us who eat when we're stressed out because that, oh boy. We reach for cookies, we reach for ice cream, fried plantain. I love fried plantain. So if you have fried plantain in the house, I live in Lightfoot. Y'all can come by with some. I won't refuse it. So I love fried plantain. And whenever I'm feeling a little down or tired, my first thing is, I need to get two plantain and just fry them. You eat them and you feel better. But we shouldn't really use food as a way to feel better. So another physical effect of extreme stress could be weight gain. Some of us eating, we lose our appetite and then we have to go end up and take B-complex and all these other things to increase our appetite. Muscle tension, our neck tight, our shoulders are tight, our back always aching, our feet always aching. Some of us don't sleep properly when we're under a lot of stress. Watch your sleep. Are you sleeping too much? Are you having problems falling asleep? Do you fall asleep and then you wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning? Racing thoughts? That tells you. Some of us have immune system problems. If a little cold passes across, we catch it. Everything that's out there, we catch it because our immune system is compromised. So we need to have vitamin C and we need to manage our mental health. Some of us have nervousness, chronic fatigue, lack of energy. So these are some of the things we deal with when our body is under attack based on these mental health issues. What are some of the signs that we need to look for? Think of if this is happening to any of you. You're constantly worried about your health and the health of your loved ones. Y'all ever heard about hypochondriac? Y'all ever heard that term? People who constantly think something is going on with them. They get a headache, they jump on Google. They have a little pain in their elbow and they forget that they live 2 blocks and they go on Google. And then something happened and they run to a doctor here. And then something happened and they run to a doctor there because they get a prescription here, they get a prescription here. We need to watch these things. And I don't want you all running from doctor to doctor. Stay with one healthcare provider so that person can know your patterns, know your body, and be able to call you out on your behavior. So look here, your pressure was 120/80, now it's 135/86, now it's 140. They want to see a pattern. But if you're going to run to this doctor today, and then because the doctor not giving you the prescription you want, you go on to somebody else. That is not right. That is not right. So you need to watch to see if you're a hypochondriac, if you're seeking, if you're med seeking. You want doctors to just give you pills, pills, pills. You don't want to get to the root of the issue. You just want to deal with the leaves. If you have a tree, right? And the tree is growing out of control, and you cut off a limb here, and you cut off a branch there, and you waiting happen, it'll go back. Unless you get to the root of the problem and do some digging, you're not going to get a solution. So brethren, we look into the roots, we go in deep. What is the cause of your mental health issue? Is it that your relationship that you're in for 5 years and you just don't want to leave the man alone? Some of you all know the man not good for you, but you just don't want nobody else to have it. But I'm not going down that road, right, Pastor? We're not talking about that tonight. So we don't want to step on anybody's corn. Some of us know that the relationship we're in is causing us more harm, it's doing us more harm than good. Some of us know that the lifestyle we live in is not in accordance with God's will. So we have a lot of guilt. We have one sort of behavior and attitude when we come to church, and we have a public persona, and in private we live in a different life. And the misalignment causes us a lot of unhappiness. We have to be honest with ourselves. The elder can't save you, the deacon can't save you, the pastor can't save you. You don't have to hide from them. God sees. Whatever problems you have, let's take it to God. He can fix it. He can fix it. He knows we're not perfect, and that's why he died for us. So we take it and we say, look, I have an issue with this. I have an issue with that. I sold $600 last year and I feel so guilty about it, but I'm afraid to go to the person because they're going to turn me in. God might say to you, you know what? Send an anonymous letter, send a letter, put the money in an envelope, whatever. But some of us are living with guilt and shame and all kinds of things that are causing us mental health issues. So let's continue. What are some other signs that you need to take action? Worsening of your chronic health conditions, the sugar just not, the diabetes, the numbers just not going down, the hypertension, the numbers just not being regulated. You're having headaches and all these other things we talked about. Some of us are paranoid. Some of us are paranoid. You see this whole COVID situation, this vaccine situation, you follow the dictates of your conscience and use your common sense. Pray and ask God for guidance. But get off of Facebook and those arguments. Why are you trying to convince people to take or not take vaccine? Is it worth it for you to be sitting there getting your blood pressure up for these arguments? Say, Jesus, please, God, please give me the wisdom to know what to do. And then you look at your health situation and you make a decision. If you're not sure, you call somebody who's a mentor or a doctor or something and say, what do you think? And you think, but stay off of those arguments on Facebook. You do what you think is best for you and let other right-thinking adults do what is best for them. And this paranoia is not good for your mental health. Sleep. If you're not sleeping, you need to take some action about that. If you're not getting at least 6 hours sleep a night, it's going to affect your physical health and your mental health. If you see changes in your eating patterns, you're just eating too much sugar, or you're not eating at all, you're not able to focus or concentrate. You have a cup of coffee at 8 o'clock, and by 10 o'clock, you need another cup of coffee. Is that normal for a young, healthy person to have to exist on 6 cups of coffees? I'm not going to talk about Red Bull because nobody up in here drinking any Red Bull. I know nobody up in here drinking energy drinks, so I'm not even going to go down that road with y'all. But if you find yourself not able to focus, not able to concentrate, pause and see what is going on. If you find yourself using cigarettes, alcohol, going into drugs, getting involved in pornography, gambling. Should I say Amazon addiction? Should we talk about that? No, we're not going to talk about Amazon addiction and how some of us shop with money we don't have. But the point is, if you notice that your behavior, if you turn into these things as a way of self-soothing, then it's a problem. Nothing is wrong with shopping on Amazon when you see deals. Nothing is wrong with playing Candy Crush or Animal Farm or whatever it is. But if you find that you're doing these things for 4 or 5 hours as a means of self-soothing, then you need to pause. Because your time is really important. And how you spend it, that tells you something about your life. If you're feeling constantly fearful, anxious, you panting for breath, you having suicidal thoughts, then you know there's a mental health issue. If you find yourself cutting, young people, sometimes when they're under severe distress and the mental and emotional pain is too much to bear, then they start cutting themselves. Because you see, when you cut yourself, you have control over that. You decide when the pain starts, you decide when the pain ends. But when you have an emotional pain and you can't speak up about it, that's why a lot of our young people start cutting. So if you see your young people in the church having these bruises here, then you need to pay attention to that. Persons having suicidal thoughts. One of the things I want you to pause and do, we've talked about the body. I want you to identify in which part of your body you are being affected by mental health and stress issues. Is it your head? Is it the tightness in your jaw? Is it pain in your neck? Is it your shoulder? So pause for 30 seconds. I have to watch the time. Pause for 30 seconds and figure out where in your body are you holding that stress? Where in your body is being affected by these issues? Is it your sleep? Is it your appetite? Are your feet always tired? Are you constantly angry? Figure out where in your body these things are happening. And the other thing I want you to do before we start talking about solutions, I would like for you to also identify your triggers. What are the things that trigger you? What are the things that trigger you? This is an individual reflection. Don't think about somebody else now. Are you triggered by your boss? Are you triggered by co-workers? Are you triggered by your children? You can't manage them, they're undisciplined. Are you triggered by your parents? Do you feel like they don't understand you, they don't listen to you? Are you triggered by your partner? Are you triggered by financial issues? Are you triggered by traffic? Are you spending too much time on the news, always listening to these bad things that are happening around the world? What is it that triggers? If you don't know what triggers you, then you won't know how to fix it. You need to know your own body and you need to know your own mind. You need to know what triggers you because it's like the sin that easily besets us. What is the thing that gets to you that causes you to go down that path that you don't want to go down? We need to figure that out. You know what triggers me? Aggressive people. It's really hard for me. My father was somebody that he was a lovely man, hardworking, but he was an alcoholic. And it's hard to live with an alcoholic because when you hear the vehicle pull up outside the house, you don't know how they're going to come in. You don't know if this is going to be a good day when he's going to come and say, oh, my beautiful daughter, or you don't know if it's a day he's going to come in screaming and shouting that everybody gets out of the house. And so now, when I'm around somebody that smells of alcohol or have that loud and aggressive behavior, it takes me back to a place that I'm not comfortable. So I personally now need to know if I have to encounter a client, or if I walk into a place of business or a store or sit in public transportation and somebody is loud or aggressive or alcoholic, I need to remove myself from the situation because my reaction is not going to be well. And when you encounter the things that trigger you, even if it's for 30 minutes, sometimes the feeling is left with you for 6 hours. So we really need to know what the things are that trigger us and how best to stay away from that. And we're going to just now talk about the 4 A's, and one of them is going to be avoiding the things that trigger you. So what I want to say to you before we talk about solutions, it's normal to feel concerned about certain issues. It's normal to feel a bit of stress sometimes. All stress is not bad. Sometimes you have some good stress. You have a child that's graduated, you're getting married, you got a promotion, and you feel stressed about it, but it's good stress. But then it's the stress that causes you to be anxious and to worry and to get headaches and all that. That's the one you need to worry about. So it's normal sometimes to get a bit of stress. It's normal to feel concerned about your budget and your finances and your children being wayward and not doing well in school, and the fact that you want to excel at work, but you don't have any money to do a degree. Your house needs to be finished. It's hurricane season. It's normal to have concern about these things. However, when it gets to the point where it changes the quality of your life, you're not able to sleep, eat, and you're not functioning the way you want to, or it's affecting the way you relate to others, then you need to pause and figure out, how do I fix this? Okay, so let's look at some solutions. Any questions so far? Let me try to see if I can, and I see something in the chat. Keep too busy. I don't want to talk about a Red Bull. Well, my expectation is that people who know better will do better. So Red Bull and those things are not good for you. It gives you a high, but then it crashes. So it's not good for your body. Just like how I don't expect anybody in here to be using vodka and Smirnoff and these things as a coping mechanism. I expected you all to be drinking plenty of water. So any questions before we go over to solutions? Let me pause for a second. We've looked at all the problems. So let's look at solutions. I want to know if you have any questions.
Ms. Norten?
Yes.
How serious a problem is mental issues in Antigua? You know, I know we're saying increase, and I know you may not have stats, but from where you sit, is it becoming an increasing problem? Talk to us a little bit about what you see.
Okay, thanks for that question. Yes, it is becoming an increasing problem. First of all, we've had people with mental issues in Antigua for a long time, and it's way more than members of the public know. I've been a counselor in Antigua for many years, and for 10 years, I was attached to the Mount St. John's Medical Center as a counselor. And at least 50% of the cases that were referred to me were persons who came to the hospital with physical complaints, and they originated in mental health concerns. A person not sleeping properly because of where they were sleeping, somebody being homeless, so they developed immune issues because they were exposed to the elements or something. And since we've had COVID, things have become a lot worse. We have a large percentage of persons in Antigua and Barbuda who have lost their jobs because of the tourism industry. The airline industry crashed, the hotel industry crashed, and we know a large percentage of our population worked in the tourism industry. So here we have a bunch of people who are unemployed. As a result of that, the crime increased. We have a situation where persons are using substances, and some time ago, substance use was legalized. While it was legalized and people have their rights, there was also an increase of young persons going to the emergency room with psychosis, marijuana-induced psychosis. So while some of us are saying, yes, people have the right to smoke and all that, and we see the Rastafarian community doing it because they use it as a means of worship and medicine, then we have a whole bunch of people in the population who are using a substance that they don't know. It's not like a pill that says 2 grams or something, and they're ending up in the emergency room with delusions of grandeur, calling themselves God, or having to be restrained because they have mental health issues as a result of marijuana use. There was an increase in that. There was an increase in persons having fear because of COVID. There was an increase in persons having mental health issues because they were isolated. You know, for a lot of people, going to work is where they saw other people, where they socialized, they got a chance to talk. But now you're sitting in a home for 8 months. You're not able to speak with somebody. Not everybody has money to have Wi-Fi and data. And during the pandemic, I counseled so many persons who mentioned sitting at home and having to think caused them to remember when they were molested at 11 years old, or caused them to think back about the fact that, look at where I am in life. I'm 40 years old and I have nothing. So there was a severe increase in mental health issues, isolation, financial, unemployment, not able to pay bills. Persons engaging in transactional relationships because they needed money to feed their children and to eat. Imagine you going with somebody just to get some money to eat. How do you look yourself in the mirror? It's not how you were raised. If your grandmother knew that this is what you were doing, you know, how would she feel? And you have to live with yourself knowing that you did this to feed your children. So things were really bad during the pandemic. Now things are a little better, but we've had some persons with lingering effects. And we've also had some domestic violence situations that escalated. We've had some marriages that were breaking up because these people were living in a home and not necessarily relating to each other, because I went to my job, you went to your job. So we only had to say good morning in the mornings. Maybe we share a car, maybe we talk about the kids. Now we're forced to be in the same space and we're recognizing who we really married to. So it was a problem. It really was a problem. Okay, let me see. I saw something else came into the chat. Someone who lost a son, and in addition, they just lost a father. What are the things you say to a person who's grieving a loss? This is one of the hardest questions to answer, because you want to say it's going to be okay, but you're not a prophet, right? You want to say they're in a better place, but you don't know that. And there are lots of things we want to say, but we don't know. What I've discovered is that the best thing to say to somebody is, I'm here if you need me. Or you can say to them, what can I do for you? It's better to let the person know you're here. And they can say to you, look, I need you to bring me some food, or I need you to just hold my phone and answer it, or I need you to come and help me tidy up or something. Let that person who's grieving tell you what you can do to make them feel better. Don't assume, because everybody is different. Some persons want to be hugged. Some persons are not comfortable with touch. Some persons want you to come and sit at their home. Some persons want to be alone. So it's better to ask the person how they can help. When somebody is going through a loss, one of the things I mentioned earlier is that a lot of people are there for them at the beginning, and that's good. But what I would like for you to do is check in on that person after a month, check in with them after 6 months, after 3 months. And if you know that the partner died and that person was the breadwinner, if you can afford it, you can put some $50 in an envelope. You don't have to ask, can I give you money? You can just put $50 in an envelope and can hand it to them. If you know it's their child that died, that's an extremely painful thing, then you can say to them, you know, would you like me to give you the number of a counselor? Would you like me to call pastor for you? What can I do? So the main thing is asking the person, how can I help you? And being very tactful with the things you say, because saying that the person's in a better place or you're going to get over it, those things are really harder. I know how you feel. We don't know how that person feels. we don't know how that person feels. Sometimes they just want to jump into the hole when the person is being buried. So we have to be very careful. And I know a lot of us mean well when we say these things, but we just have to be careful. What are some of the debilitating physical ailments that can be brought about by overriding mental illness? Okay, so the physical ailments, I ran through some of them, and I can always email this to Dr. Mead later on for her to share with you. Migraine headaches can be caused by stress and mental issues. Lack of sleep, it's a physical ailment, because if you don't get a good night's sleep, one night of not sleeping properly can cause poor cognitive function in the next day. If some of you who've traveled, right, and the plane has been delayed and you haven't been able to get a good night's sleep, you ever notice sometimes it takes you 2-3 days to catch up on that one night's sleep? So when you don't sleep well for one night, there is a significant cognitive decline the very next day. You don't make good decisions, your judgment is impaired, you have traffic accidents, you blow off at your boss and get suspension, all because of a poor night's sleep. So mental health issues can affect your head, your heart, your I keep saying sugar, diabetes, hypertension. We're so used to saying sugar and pressure, but we know it's hypertension and diabetes. I don't want to get in trouble with Dr. Mead for saying the wrong things. But yes, you can have backaches and stomach problems, ulcers and acid reflux and all these things as a result of these issues. Okay, so let's talk about some solutions. How much time we have left? All right, so let's talk about some solutions. I have solutions all over the place. I have a paper here and I have stuff there. I love this topic so much. I'm so excited. But let me try to not overdo. Okay, so let's look at some solutions. The first thing I want to ask you, all of you, every one of you, and I'm speaking to myself too, watch the quality of your thoughts. What are the things you think and what are the things you say to yourself? This is the first thing I want to say to all of us. I'm speaking to Koren, Alfie, and Norten, and I'm speaking to everyone in this room, looking at the quality of your thoughts. Your thoughts affect your words, it affects your attitude, it affects your behavior, it affects how you show up in the world, just because of your thoughts. If you wake up in the morning and you think, look, I'm just fed up, nobody loves me, this world is a cruel place, you leave your home and you step out into the world thinking nobody loves you and the world is a cruel place. So if somebody forgets to say good morning, you take that as something. If you stump your toe, you take that as something. And you go through your whole day in a state of pessimism. And there's no evidence that anything is wrong, but just the quality of your thoughts. Whereas if you leave home thinking I am blessed, I am happy to be alive, and I'm a conqueror, then somebody don't say good morning to you, you don't even think nothing of that. You probably think, oh, they forgot. And you shout out, good morning, Maria. And Maria is so shocked, Maria don't have no choice but to answer you. Because maybe Maria genuinely have other things on her mind. Maria not thinking about you, Maria have her own problems. So just because Maria didn't say good morning, Maria have stress. So you say good morning, that changes her day. So you just go through life with an attitude of optimism. That is the first thing. And it's not false optimism. You remember we said every day above the ground is a good day? We mean that. So watch the quality of your thoughts and watch the things you say to yourself. One of the things I always ask my clients to do, and some of us in here are Christians, is to start our day with a little devotional. Sometimes you're going to be too tired, but it's worth it to be 5 minutes late to read that daily word. The daily word reading is small like this. They're short, you don't have any excuse. And guess what? They're just $10. I buy them at where I buy them at the Methodist Book Center. I don't know how much they charge at other places. But the daily words small like this, so you have no excuse. And there's always, you can set up an app that sends a scripture to your phone or anything. We have access to everything because most of us have smartphones. If you don't have smartphones, buy the $10 daily word. If you can't afford it, ask me for the money, ask Pastor for the money. Well, you can't ask Dr. Mead for the money because you have to take care of the baby. But find $10, miss a meal one day, you're gonna lose a pound and then you'll be happy. And then you have one less thing to stress about. So start off your day with a nice reading, and you can start off your day with affirmations. There are different affirmations for different types of situations. If finances are your issue, then you use an affirmation related to that. I am blessed. God has bounty in store for me. The cattle upon 1,000 hills are his. So if finances are your issue, find affirmations that fit that. If your issues are your chronic illness, like your body just feel like it's betraying you, you declare health. The great physician now is here. Jesus, you wish above all things that I prosper and be in good health. My body is under my control, and I will put things in my body that will boost it and not break it down. So whatever your issue is, you speak positive affirmations. You look yourself in the mirror every day. And you know something? Ephesians 6 talk about putting on the armor. Do you leave your house well armored every day? What constitutes an armor for you? The word of God, a positive attitude, drinking your water, your warm lemon water, saying a prayer, forgiving yourself for the mistakes you've made. So we need to look at the quality of our thoughts and the things we say to ourselves. So we need to say the serenity prayer. We need to identify what are the things that we have no control over. Can a man by wishing change his stature? Can any of us change our height? You know, I wish I had long, thick hair, but I don't. So I just buy long, thick wigs. So what I'm saying is, observe the serenity prayer. God, give me the courage to accept the things I cannot change. No, give me the wisdom to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can. How it go? Give me the serenity to accept the things. So what is it? Give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. So we need to know what the things are that we have no control over, and we need to place them in the hands of the Lord. There are some things we have no control over, place them in the hands of the Lord. Then there are some things we have control over. We have control over what we put in our bodies. We have control over what we say to ourselves. We have control over certain decisions that we make. Some of us have mental health issues and extreme stress because of the decisions that we make, right? So we have control over some things. We need to increase our sense of control by having a consistent daily routine. Watch your sleep. I have a video on sleep habits. It talks about going to sleep at the same time at night, putting aside your devices early because the blue light is like day. So when you use your phone until 2, 3 o'clock, it's like if you're sitting in the bright sun. So when it's time for you to sleep now, there's no switch between day and night for you. So you need to turn off your devices at least an hour before bedtime. So it's like day and night. Spend time in the sun. That's a very good thing for persons suffering with depression. Spending time in the sun, getting a sun bath, not in the middle of the day to go get no skin cancer and blame me. Like before 10 in the morning or after 4. Those are the times to spend in the sun. And when you have a good sun bath, that gives you energy. It gives you a little vitality. Even for those of us who are having sexual issues, for those over 18 in the room, spending time in the sun adds to that. Enough on that topic. So having a regular sleep schedule, taking breaks to stretch, exercise. Hello, how many of you spend at least 3 times a week exercising for at least 30 minutes? Exercise produces endorphins. Pastor, next time I'm coming to do this topic, let somebody with health come with me so we can kind of tag team, because I find I go into a lot of health things, but it's the body. Can't separate the body and the mind, they're one. And we can't trade it into handy like how we trade our car and get a new fancy model. This is the one body we have with us for the rest of our life. So make sure you stretch. Y'all can stretch now while y'all listening. I know y'all have hands-free devices. Stretch your arms out. Stretch them up. You know, sometimes rotate your neck. Start your morning with a nice, good stretch. Start your morning with your lemon water. Make sure you get enough sleep. Spend time outdoors. Be physically active. If you have a disability where you can't go jogging, then you can do stuff in the water. You can do leg lifts or something like that. If you work from home, set a regular time to work. Just because you work from home, don't mean you're going to be working 8 o'clock in the night and 10 o'clock in the night. Set a regular schedule for those who are working from home. I'm trying to go really fast now. When it comes to COVID-19, know the facts. Don't just jump on every bandwagon that you hear. Make sure you follow the information from recognized sources, the health professionals and the United Nations and so on. Don't just jump onto every bandwagon. Remember, I warned you all from Facebook. Some of y'all get into too many inappropriate arguments on Facebook. Stay away from certain people's pages. Take care of yourself by following the protocols, doing your hand washing, wearing your mask. Even if you got vaccine, just hold on a little longer with following the protocols. Take breaks from social media. I know some of you not gonna listen to this. Maybe 2 persons will listen. The rest of y'all not gonna listen. Y'all too love Instagram and TikTok. Stay away from social media sometimes. Take a break. Pick up paper book and read. If you still have paper books in the house. Hearing about the pandemic repeatedly can be upsetting and mentally exhausting. Connect with others. For those of us who are extroverts, if you have to go walking, go down to the stadium with a group. Go hiking with a group. We have a lot of people that hike on Saturday mornings. Go to the beach with a group. You can have games night once you organize your distance. And you don't need to have a lot of money to have fun. If you're a kind of social person, get some board games. If you don't have board games, get pen and paper and play boy, girl, animal, fruits and country. And 4 of you meet up and you just play some games. Listen to music together, right? Consider what has worked for you in the past when you've had stress and do that. Because we didn't get to this stage in our lives without being able to manage stress. Somebody turns off their phone at 8:30 every night. That's a very good idea. So y'all don't call her after 8:30 because she's not going to answer, right? And set your boundaries with people. If you know you're not a phone person at night, tell them. And the last part about, I have 4 stress management techniques, the 4 A's. A, the first A, avoidance. Avoid certain people, certain places, and certain things. I know there's some people you don't have a choice but to be around them because of work. You sit on the same committee at church and all that. But if you know that somebody really triggers you and you've made an effort to have a mediation session with them, you said, sis, can we talk? Bro, can we talk? And you've tried 2 or 3 times and it's not working out, then maybe you need to stay away from that person because it's going to cost you your spot in heaven. Nobody is, okay? So we need to know who to stay away from. Avoid certain people, avoid certain places, and avoid certain things. We don't want nobody in here in any casino. Stay away from the casinos and the bars. The second A is to adapt. Sometimes you need to adapt to certain situations. Again, COVID is one of them. You have to wear a mask. It's uncomfortable for me because my nose is always blocked up. They say I need to go to the sea and inhale seawater and blow it out. I can't do that. I can't even swim. So I'm not going to inhale no seawater. I'll start coughing on the place. So I have to suck Mintons or use a nose drops that are not good. But I still have to adapt to wearing a mask. So I put on the mask and then I try to step outside and take breaks. The third A is to alter. And that's what we talked about in the Serenity Prayer. Some things you can alter. You can go out a little less. You can spend a little less. If you have financial issues, you can redo your budget, you know, give up the cable TV for one something and just use Netflix, which may be $20 a month. So you can adjust things in your budget. Stop eating out so much. I can tell you all how to live on a frugal, on a budget. I'm the queen of that. You see these split peas and pigeon peas, and so those things are so cheap. Potatoes are cheap, carrots are cheap. You don't need all the ton of rice and pasta and all these sweet cakes. You know, you can take oats, like how you make oatmeal, and you can bake that thing, and it tastes like a nice dessert. Just throw some essence in that. Okay, let me not go down that route. And the last A is accept. Some things we have no control over, so we accept. So the 4 A's for stress management: avoid certain people, places, and things, adapt to certain situations, alter things a little bit where you can tweak, and accept some things. So earlier I asked you to make a list of 3 things that were affecting you. Now I want you to make a list of 3 strategies that you can use to bring you peace. I had some more. Pastor, I'm going to say 4 other things quickly that I want to mention. One was setting boundaries. Some of us, we don't know our limits and we allow people to take advantage of us. We need to learn to speak up. We need to learn to be assertive without being aggressive and to communicate properly. And we need to be consistent when we set boundaries. That is one way of us not getting to the point where we always frazzled and stressed out and always having issues because we set boundaries with people. The second one is the power of positive thinking. Positive thinking. And then having reasonable goals and expectations and balancing our time, managing our time and our workload. That's the other thing I want to mention. So I'm closing off now, 1 more minute. Make a list of 3 strategies that you can use to bring you peace. It could be a person you can talk with. It could be a scripture that you can read that makes you feel better. It could be a song that you can sing. It could be some of the affirmations. It could be a place that you can go, Shirley's Heights. Don't go Shirley's Heights if you're suicidal. It could be at the beach at sunset, stadium, something like that. So make a list next to those 3 things you made that stress you out. Right next to it, put 3 things, strategies that you can use that will bring you some level of peace to manage your mental health. And I want to close off with a scripture, Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6, New International Version. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not on thine own understanding. In all thy ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6.